Howdy and welcome back to These Two Hands Homestead, where we believe that with these two hands and God's will we can do anything. Last time we worked on the back side of our rabbit hutch. Went ahead and completed the front side off camera just because it's kind of the same thing, just on the front side. We did make this front side, the top of it, about 6 inches taller. That's going to allow for a pitch on a roof to go from the front to the back, so that when we put it outside, all the water and rain and weather and anything that blows inside will be able to run off the back. Our next step, we're going to move this off of our work table here, and we are going to start cutting down the pieces that will run in between the two sides. So we're going to be cutting some 2x4s into 2 foot lengths, and we'll get that done and be back with you. We ran into a little problem. I noticed we got some checking here as these boards have dried. You're going to run into that from time to time when you've got boards that you've milled yourself, especially if they're going to be oak. You're going to run into some checking as the boards dry. So what we're going to do to keep them from completely splitting, we're just going to drill some holes here to put some screws in, and I'm going to fasten this piece of board that's trying to crack off to the main body of the board. We'll get that done, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we've got our boards cut here. Actually, these are 21 inches. They're a little under 2 feet. That's going to accommodate the 1.5 inches from the other 2x4s to make it exactly 24 inches from one side to the other, because that's the size of water we have and that's the depth we're planning for these cages. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pre-drill to attach these boards in between the front and the back. You'll notice there's one extra board on the back side. Don't worry about that, I'll explain it later. You'll see where that comes into play. But for now, we're going to go ahead, get these pre-drilled, get them attached together, and then we'll move on to the next step after that. So we're going to come in and we're going to measure in about in between where my 2 fingers are, because my 2 fingers are about the same width as this 2x4, and I want this hole to be right in the middle of that board. And so if I take it and I put my 2 fingers here, then I can just drill right in between where my 2 fingers are, again cutting this board into thirds, and those 2 holes are going to be where my screws are going to go through to fasten this board to the crossboard. So we'll get that done, and then we'll come back and check in with you again. Okay, so we've got these all put together. We've got the braces between the front half and the back half attached here. You'll notice I put 2 screws in the side and then 2 screws in the front of the face of this. So we've got pressure holding it together from 2 directions. So this makes this thing pretty solid. Once we get the siding on here and the backing on here, it's going to be rock solid. It's not going anywhere. Our next step in this building process, we're going to put our divider walls in to separate out the cages. Now originally I was going to just do 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. Did a little more research, and while that's okay for commercial meat rabbits, most of the time if you want to have like a good grow out cage, you want about 8 square feet. So we're going to go ahead and just do 4 cages for this hutch, and so that will give us 2 feet by the 2 feet tall by 4 feet in length, and that'll give us enough room so that the rabbits can be in there pretty much birth until butcher. That way we don't have to worry about, okay, is this a birthing cage or is this a grow out cage? They're just universal. It makes it everything easier. This build's easy enough. If I want to do it again, I can. If we need more rabbits, I can build another one. It won't take that long. It's not that difficult. So we're going to go ahead and get that done, and we'll catch up with you again. Okay, so to make our central dividing wall, that's going to divide this up into 4 cages. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've measured the halfway mark here in between the left and right side of this. I measured it on both sides and marked it on both sides, so I have a good reference point of where to line up the center of this dividing wall at. To make the dividing wall, I'm going to take some 1-inch boards. I've already measured these out so that they fit the 21-inch span we're trying to accomplish here. I've got 3 of these boards that are 1 inches by 5 inches, and then I've got 2 more boards that are 1 inch by 3 inch. And what we're going to do, we're going to lay them out on top of these boards, and then we're going to lay them out on top of these boards, just like this, all the way across, and then we're going to put another board on top like this, and we're going to fasten through from either side, and all these boards are going to make up a middle wall, and then we'll just take the middle wall, put it in there, and screw through here to hold that middle wall up. Once we get this middle wall constructed, I'll come back and I'll show you a little more what I'm talking about when it comes to installing this middle wall. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and get this knocked out, and we'll be back. Okay, so we've got our center wall constructed here. Again, what I've done, I've got vertical boards that run across here. They're 1 inch by 5 inch, except for the outer 2 boards, which are 1 inch by 3 inch. And they're just screwed, kind of laminated here between a couple of 2x4s. These 2x4s I've measured out, and they are going to run the same spacing as our uprights that go back to front on the side of the hutch there. This will give us a surface to staple in the construction mesh to. That's going to be the cage material that we use for this. And then it also helps to shore up any twisting or racking or side-to-side shaking, gives it another anchor point or 2. So what I've done, I've constructed this outside of the thing, and then we're going to lift it into place. One of the things that I've done to help us with this is I've just taken just a scrap board right here and screwed it up to the underside of this cage piece here, or this board here, and we're going to set the middle wall in on this and kind of stand it up, line it up, and then we'll screw it here front and back, just like this, with 2 screws, just like we did the supports on the side here. So let's get that in place, and then I'll get back with you. One second, we're having some technical difficulties. Alright, so we ran into an issue putting that up in there. Some of the boards in the middle have a bow in them. That's going to happen again when you're using green lumber, milling out your own lumber. You're going to have a little bit of slop in it, and so what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple of spreader boards to put in between those and spread those out so we've got room to actually stand that up in there and a little bit of room to play around. We're going to cut, since the gap that we're trying to bridge here is 21 inches, we are going to cut these probably 21 3/4. That'll give us 3/4 of an inch of wiggle room to kind of wiggle around in there, and should be able to get those stood up. So we'll get those cut, and I'll show you how we put those in place, and we'll go from there. Okay, so we've got our spreader boards here. These are just a couple of pieces of scrap wood I had laying around. We're going to put these in just by kind of put them in here at a bit of an angle like this, and we're just going to hammer them into place. And again, what this is going to do, this is going to spread out this gap between the 2 boards, so we've got room to maneuver this wall panel up into place where we need it to be. And once we get it fastened in, all we got to do is just knock these boards out, real nice and easy. So there's one. We'll put the second one in right about here. Watch your fingers. Alright, that should spread those out enough where we can lift this panel up into place without having as much difficulty. This panel's pretty heavy, so This bottom spanner board, so I'll go ahead and take the screw out of that side. And for just a moment, there we go. Now, everything's in place. So we'll get these fastened in with 2 screws at each of these supports, and we'll check back in with you when we're done. Okay, well, we've got our center wall installed here. You can see it's a lot more solid now. This thing's not going anywhere. These boards will shrink a little bit over time as they dry out, and you'll see a few little gaps here, but they won't be anything big enough rabbits can squeeze through or anything like that. Each of these center supports now is supported in multiple places, plus this vertical wall here helps to reduce any sagging that might occur. I think that's where we're going to call it for today, for this video. The next video we will come back and we'll be putting in the construction mesh on the bottom, and we'll be working on our guttering system to funnel waste away and into a collection system. It's kind of something neat that I came up with, inspired by some different things. I think you guys will like it. It's going to make collecting all your rabbit waste a whole lot easier and keeps a cleaner environment for the rabbits as well. So if you like what we're doing, come back and join us again. We'll have a video out just as soon as we can. Until then, have a good day and be blessed.
Thumbs up, dude.
And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.